She was 3 months pregnant, glowing, full of life, and dreaming about her future as a mother. But one evening, 26-year-old Kierra Coles stepped out of her Southside Chicago apartment and simply vanished. The next day, her car returned, but she didn't. A surveillance video released by police captured a chilling scene. The man last seen with her, calmly parking her car and walking away like nothing ever happened. More than 6 years later to this point of recording, no arrests have been made, no charges filed, and the person of interest, he's living freely in another state while Kiara's family begs for answers. Today I'm going to show you how a promising postal worker's disappearance exposed the cracks in our justice system, and why this case should have been solved years ago. We'll examine the damning surveillance footage, the contradictory statements, and the evidence that investors claim isn't enough. This is the story Chicago forgot, but Kierra Coles' family refuses to let die. Kierra Coles was everything you want in a neighbor, a coworker, a daughter. Born and raised on Chicago's South Side, she embodied ambition and determination. At 26, she worked tirelessly for 3 years as a seasonal postal employee before finally achieving her dream of becoming a full-time mail carrier. Those who knew Kiara described her as driven and caring. She was the type of person who would check on elderly neighbors and always had a smile for everyone on her mail route. But perhaps what excited her most in the fall of 2018 was the news that she was expecting her first child. At 3 months pregnant, Kiara was already making plans for her baby's future, talking about names and dreaming of the family she'd build. She lived on 81st and Vernon in the Southside Chatham neighborhood, a working-class area where families looked out for each other. It was the kind of place where people noticed when something wasn't right. And on October 2nd, 2018, everything went very, very wrong. Let me walk you through what we know happened, hour by hour, because the timeline in this case is everything. On October 2nd, Kiara called in sick to work. She wasn't feeling well, something not uncommon for a woman in her first trimester of pregnancy. But here's where things get strange. Surveillance footage from her apartment building shows Kiara leaving that evening wearing her postal uniform. Why would someone who called in sick be dressed for work? The footage shows her walking to her car with a man, someone she clearly knew and trusted. This man has been identified by police as her boyfriend, though they've never officially named him as a suspect. We'll call him the person of interest for legal reasons. Based on the statements of Lieutenant William Savilar, here's what the surveillance cameras captured. Kiara and this man getting into her vehicle together, with Kiara in the driver's seat. The couple takes off from Kiara's block from there. Investigators aren't sure about the timeline between these two instances, but an important observation to point out is she left her apartment in uniform. But later, at 10:43 p.m., she's withdrawing cash from a Walgreens ATM, now in civilian clothes. Between those two moments, something changed. This surveillance footage of Kiara at the ATM would be the last time anyone would see Kierra Coles. But the story doesn't end there. The next day, October 3rd, those same surveillance cameras capture something chilling. The person of interest returns, alone, driving Kiara's car. He parks it near her apartment building, gets out, and walks into the building. Minutes later, he emerges carrying items from Kiara's apartment and loads them into his own vehicle before driving away. Kiara's car sat there, abandoned, with her purse, cell phone, and work belongings still inside. Her lunch was untouched. Her prenatal vitamins were in her bag. Everything suggested she had planned to return, but never did. When Kiara failed to show up for work and couldn't be reached, her family immediately knew something was wrong. This wasn't like her. Kiara was responsible, reliable, the type of person who always called if she was going to be late. Her family filed a missing person report, and Chicago police began their investigation. What they found should have been enough to make an arrest. The surveillance footage clearly showed the person of interest was the last person seen with Kiara. He had access to her apartment, her car, and had been captured on camera removing items from her home after she disappeared. But when police questioned him, his story kept changing. According to investigators, he gave varying accounts of the last time he saw her. First, he claimed he hadn't seen Kiara that day. Then, when confronted with the surveillance footage, he admitted to being with her but couldn't explain why his story had changed or where she had gone after being seen with him last. The evidence seemed overwhelming. He was the last person seen with Kiara. He returned her car without her. He removed items from her apartment. He lied to police about his whereabouts. He had intimate access to the victim. Yet somehow, this wasn't enough for an arrest. Kiara's mother, Karen Phillips, has become the voice for her missing daughter. In interview after interview, she's pleaded for answers, for justice, for someone to care about her pregnant daughter who simply vanished. "I know in my heart that my daughter is not coming home," Phillips told reporters. "But I need to know what happened to her. I need to know where she is so I can lay her to rest." Phillips has repeatedly called for federal intervention, begging the FBI to take over the case from the Chicago police. She organized marches, spoken at community meetings, and refused to let her daughter's case fade into obscurity. The family's frustration is palpable. They know who they believe is responsible. The community knows. The evidence seems clear. Yet the person of interest reportedly moved to another state shortly after Kiara's disappearance and has been living freely ever since. "How is this man not in custody?" Phillips asked during a 2022 press conference. "How is he allowed to just move away and start a new life while my daughter is gone and my grandchild never got a chance at life?" This is where the case becomes not just about Kierra Coles, but about the broader failures in our justice system. Chicago police suspended their investigation in 2020, claiming they had exhausted all leads, but had they really? The department classified the case as suspended, meaning it could be reopened if new information emerged. But what new information could possibly be more compelling than surveillance footage of the suspect's actions? Legal experts point to several possible reasons why no arrest was made. The no body problem. Without Kiara's remains, prosecutors would have to prove she was murdered without physical evidence of her death. While this has been done before, it's significantly more challenging. Circumstantial evidence. While the surveillance footage is damning, defense attorneys could argue it doesn't prove murder, only that the person of interest was with Kiara and later returned her car. Burden of proof. In criminal cases, the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. Prosecutors may have felt they couldn't meet this standard with the available evidence. But here's what's troubling. Other cases have proceeded with less evidence. The decision not to arrest or charge the person of interest seems to reflect the system that failed Kierra Coles. While we can't know for certain what occurred that October night, the evidence suggests a tragic scenario.
She didn't disappear on her own accord, in my opinion.
Senior homicide detective Will Svilar has studied every moment of the day 26-year-old Kierra Coles was last seen. The pregnant postal worker called her mom as she shopped for baby supplies on the afternoon of Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018.
She was just so excited she didn't even know what to get.
No sign that anything was wrong.
No sign.
That was the last conversation Karen Phillips ever had with her daughter. A short time later, you see Kiara carrying her shopping bags into her apartment building in the 8100 block of South Vernon. That evening, Detective Svilar says she left in her car with a man they call a person of interest.
Is she driving or is the man?
She is driving.
They went to a 24-hour Walgreens at 8600 South Cottage Grove, and the security tape shows her withdrawing hundreds of dollars from an ATM machine. This was the last time Kierra Coles was ever seen. Police say the evidence shows the man drove her car back to her neighborhood alone and parked down the street before 11:45 that night and got out on the passenger side of the car.
Why would he get out of the passenger seat?
I can only speculate. It's not like you're opening a car into traffic. My speculation is he's staging the seat.
Perhaps sliding the driver's seat forward by hand to make it look like Kiara had been driving. Police say he then walked to another car parked nearby and drove away.
His car?
Yes.
Same person of interest?
Yes.
Do you think whatever happened was over in less than 1 hour?
Yes. I think the last time we see Kiara, she is unfortunately not alive much longer after that.
The removal of items from her apartment could indicate he was eliminating evidence or taking things that might implicate him. His changing story to police suggests consciousness of guilt and awareness that his actions needed explanation. Most tellingly, his decision to leave Chicago shortly after the disappearance speaks volumes. Innocent people don't typically flee when their loved ones go missing. They stay to help with the search. Artist Damon Lamar Reed created a mural of Kiara as part of his project highlighting missing Black women. The documentary, Still Searching, featured his work and brought renewed attention to cases like Kiara's that have been forgotten by mainstream media. As of 2025, Kierra Coles remains missing. Her case is officially classified as a high-risk missing person investigation with potential foul play suspected, but no arrests have been made. The person of interest continues to live somewhere out of state. He has never been charged with any crime related to Kierra's disappearance. Chicago police maintain they don't have sufficient evidence to make an arrest despite the surveillance footage and his contradictory statements. Kiara's family continues to fight for answers. They've increased the reward for information leading to her whereabouts to $45,000. They hold annual vigils on the anniversary of her disappearance. They refuse to let her memory fade. But perhaps most heartbreaking of all, Kiara's unborn child would be 5 years old today. A kindergartner who never got the chance to take their first breath, to say their first word, to hug their grandmother who fights so hard for justice. Kierra Coles was more than a statistic. She was a daughter, a hardworking individual, an expectant mother with dreams and plans for the future. Her disappearance represents not just a personal tragedy, but a systematic failure to protect and seek justice for young, vulnerable women. Kiara's mother said it best: "My daughter was somebody. She mattered, and she deserves justice." If you have any information about Kierra Coles' disappearance, please contact Chicago Police at 312-746-7330 or submit an anonymous tip at cpdtip.com. The family is offering a $45,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. Share this video to keep Kiara's story alive. Comment below with your thoughts on this case, and please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button, because every missing person deserves to have their story told, and we're committed to making sure none of them are forgotten.